to History Uncovered. Look at a map of North America today and the border looks permanent. But in the early 1800s, it was a bloody, chaotic question mark. Today we're breaking down the War of 1812, a conflict Americans call the Second War of American Independence, but Canadians remember as a desperate fight for survival. This isn't the dry textbook version. This is how a messy war, an elite cooperative-style dictatorship, and thousands of desperate immigrants literally forged a country. To help this story, we have our resident historian David, along with our dramatic readings from the actual perspectives of American soldier Jacob Jean, and our British-Canadian military veteran Noah. Let's get into it.
It all kicked off in June 1812. The United States, furious over British naval blockades and maritime bullying, declared war on Great Britain. Because Canada was a British colony, it instantly became the primary battlefield.
And the Americans thought it would be a walk in the park, right?
Absolutely. Thomas Jefferson literally said conquering Canada would be a mere matter of marching. But the reality was a brutal multi-front war fought off Upper and Lower Canada, the Great Lakes, and the Atlantic Ocean. According to our first major primary source, the official War Office dispatches of 1812, thousands of British regulars, local Canadian militia, and Indigenous warriors had to quickly band together to hold the front line.
Let's cut directly to a live battlefield update from the Niagara front. This is Jacob Ball reporting live from the Niagara River. The date is October 13, 1812. American forces have crossed the river under cover of darkness and captured the high ground at Constant Heights. British Major General Isaac Clark just charged up the hill to reclaim the artillery battery, but he's been shot and killed. The defense is collapsing. Wait, someone is charging out the woods. Noah, what are you saying?
It's the Mohawk warriors led by John Norton. They're holding the flank. They're screaming war cries from the woods, delaying the Americans until our reinforcements can get up the hill.
We're trapped on a cliffside. The New York State's militia at the river is refusing to cross over to help us. They stay in their little duty and only to defend America's soil. We are completely pinned down by cliffs and the Mohawk ambush.
Incredible drama. David, how did that chaos actually end?
The battle was won by the British and Indigenous alliance, but it set off a brutal 3-year seesaw struggle.
It wasn't just a defensive war for Canada, though. Things got incredibly bloody on both sides as the years rolled on.
It really did. In July 1814, the single bloodiest crash on Canadian soil took place. The Battle of Lundy's Lane. It was fought in pitch-black darkness near Niagara Falls. Soldiers couldn't see who they were shooting at, resulting in massive casualties on both sides. It ended in a tactical stalemate, but it completely stopped the American advance into Upper Canada.
But the biggest shockwave of the war didn't even happen in Canada. It happened deep in American territory.
Exactly, in retaliation for American troops burning down Canadian government buildings in New York, modern-day Toronto, the British launched a direct strike on Washington, D.C. in August 1814.
Marched straight into the American capital after routing their militia. We ate the dinner that was left out for President Madison, and then set fire to the public buildings.
They torched the Capitol building and presidential mansion, which had been painted while afterward to cover up severe burn marks, cementing its legacy as the White House.
Let's talk about the people who actually held the line during those invasions. The Indigenous tribes.
This brings us to our second reliable source, the papers of Tushnet and the Indian Department Archives. These documents prove that the British could not have defended Canada without Indigenous helps. Many tribes made alliances with the British because they wanted to protect their ancestral lands from aggressive American expansion.
Great united a powerful confederacy. He allied with the British because he knew a unified front was the only way to stop the American forces from wiping out his people's territories.
We genuinely feared Chim's force, but when we was killed at the Battle of the Somme in 1813, that powerful alliance fractured.
Moving in into your lands, fracturing communities that just had bled for the crown.
Following past the war into the 1820s and 30s, Canada faced a new wave of pressure, massive explosion in immigration.
Exactly. Hundreds of thousands of immigrants flooded in from Ireland, Scotland, and England. Many were desperate people trying to escape poverty or the devastating potato famine in Ireland, looking at a fresh start.
Let's listen to an actual excerpt from an Irish immigrant's journal crossing in Atlantic 1832.
The condition of those comfort ships were horrific. Thousands died before touching Canadian soil.
Survived the Atlantic. The real work began. You had to chop down massive trees by hand, build a log cabin from scratch, grow your own food, and survive winters that were brutally cold. Kids worked in fields instead of going to schools, just so families could survive.
So you have a country built on survival and hard work. But who was actually running the show?
In Upper Canada, it wasn't a democracy. It was run by tiny, wealthy, deeply corrupted elites called the Family Compact. They controlled the government, the best lands, and banks. Regular settlers had zero say.
From the outside looking in, it looked totally unfair. People wanted a real democracy where the government actually answered to the public like we had in the States.
Celebration boiled over into outright violence. In 1837, William Lyon Mackenzie led an armed rebellion in Upper Canada, while Louis Joseph led a matching rebellion from Lower Canada.
The rebellions failed militarily and the leaders fled into exile. However, the chaos forced Great Britain to realize things had to change. They sent Lord Durham to investigate, which eventually led to the merging of provinces and the birth of fair and responsible democratic government.
We've covered a massive chunk of history today. David, can you tie it all together?
Between 1800 and 1850, Canada was shaped by three major forces: the fires of 1812, the raw grit of desperate immigrants, and political reforms won by people who refused to be ruled by corrupt elite.
This history matters because Canada didn't just happen by accident. It was built through incredible struggle, compromise, and sacrifice.
That is all the time we have for today. Thank you to our guests and thank you for listening to History Uncovered. See you next time.
The song playing is bellashow.tge. Other songs were Darkest the Night, Random Mozart Songs, Fortunate Son, and Yankee Doodle. David M. as the editor, Noah and Jacob G. as the veterans, and Jacob O. as the host. This voice is AI, by the way.
Bella ciao, 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 bel partigiano, portami via, che mi sento di morire. Stamattina mi sono alzato. Oh bella ciao, bella ciao, bella ciao, ciao, ciao. Questa mattina mi sono alzato e ho trovato l'invaso. Portami via, oh bella ciao, bella ciao, bella ciao, 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 bel partigiano, portami via, che mi sento di morire, e se io muoio da partigiano, oh bella ciao, bella ciao, bella ciao, 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 e se io muoio da partigiano, tu mi devi seppellire.
E seppellire lassù in montagna. Oh bella ciao, bella ciao, bella ciao, ciao, ciao. E seppellire lassù in montagna, sotto l'ombra di un bel fior. E le genti che passeranno, oh bella ciao, bella ciao, bella ciao, ciao, ciao. E le genti che passeranno mi diranno che bel fior. E questo è il fiore del partigiano. Oh bella ciao, bella